All right, welcome to Feelin' Froggy, the Invasive Lures podcast. Today with me we have Kobe, and Kobe goes by Cast1More on Instagram. I can pull up his socials and show you, or you guys can go check it out for yourself. And Kobe is one of our newer pro staff anglers. And basically, what that means is if you use his discount code, he will earn some pennies. Because nobody's making a ton of money in this industry, but I do like to pay out the guys that, fish with our product and they believe in it. And if they can convert sales, then absolutely they deserve a little piece of it. And that's the only commercial I'm going to be running for this because we don't have sponsors here. And I don't want any sponsors. Our goal is to give you outside perspective other than just myself and what you see on social media. We want to be able to talk directly with the anglers that are out there fishing with invasive lures, get their opinions, see what's working for them, where they're at, and give you guys that information so that maybe, not everybody's in Florida, not everybody's in Maryland, not everybody's catching snakeheads, but you guys can go out there, get a topwater eat, try something new maybe, and be more effective on the water. So, Kobe, question one we got for you, where we start off with is, tell us about yourself and where is it that you call home? I understand that you move basically around a little bit. So you were in Florida and now you're up in Massachusetts. So how's that going for you?
That's correct. It all started in Texas. If anyone's watched my videos or will in the future, you'll hear my twang come out a little bit from the South, and originally from Texas. I joined the Coast Guard out of high school, so that kind of sent me away from my home state. But for the last 6 years, I've been in Florida because after I bounced around doing my military stuff, I ended up in South Florida, which was a blessing. And then, now this is the first season actually that I'm going to be doing like a reverse snowbird almost, being from the South, going up to the north and then coming back down to the South again for the winter season. So I won't be back to Florida until probably December. But so far it's going really good. It's been an experience to now have caught fish in Texas, Mississippi, Virginia, Florida, and some of the Carolinas, and then now up here in these northern states, Massachusetts. So it's been an experience and looking forward to some more.
Heck yeah. Yeah, you've been all over. Kind of the same with me. I've been all over the East Coast up and down. Haven't done a lot of fishing over in Texas, but I've been there. So yeah, it's got to be a huge difference fishing from Florida going to Massachusetts. But
Absolutely.
are you targeting the same stuff? I mean, largemouth bass are pretty much everywhere, but is there anything else that is in Massachusetts that you don't have access to from, if you were in Florida?
Absolutely. So now, now that I've been, targeting topwater style fish, I would say there's different species that you mentioned that are eager to hit a topwater lure, and I've seen that now. I've caught snakeheads in Florida. I've caught bass in Florida. I've even had hits on gar on topwater in Florida. But now in this New England state here in Massachusetts, I've caught largemouth as well, and I've also caught chain pickerel on topwater. So that's kind of a toothy gar style, but up here for the New England states. And I know that there are other fish here that are probably intrigued as well. We do have bowfin, so I'm sure at some point I would love to get on one of those. It's just sometimes it's hard finding them exactly. But yeah, there's definitely a multi-species up here in Massachusetts that's a little bit different, the pickerel and the bowfin and a couple others, maybe even a pike or so, something like that, if it's eager enough. But exactly where I'm at, pike are not so, known, at least recorded, so if you do catch one, you're more lucky, but, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, up in Maryland during the winter months, the chain pickerel is the only thing you can fish for. I mean, the only thing that'll still hit a lure. You can catch a yellow perch in February, but you can still go out there with a spinner, and maybe sometimes they'll hit something on top water if it's not too cold yet. But
So,
the splash ride has been killing it for bowfin for me. I mean, I just run that thing into the swamp, and all of a sudden they just blow up on it. So
right.
give that one a try if you're looking for a bowfin. But they have pretty good eyesight. They're kind of hard to trick. I think they hit that flashing blade thinking it's like a minnow or something on top of the water, and
Mhm.
that does trick them a little bit. But usually you don't really get a lot of bowfin action on top water unless it's during their spawn when they're just or pre-spawn when they're trying to just eat everything. And
Right.
this is different from a snakehead. They'll V line from way across 15 yards away and just track it all the way down. And if you stop moving, they're gone. They don't want anything to do with it. So if they come track it, just keep it steady moving and let them blow up on it. If 50-50, they miss or they grab it. But
Understood.
if I stop completely and just try and let them take it, they don't want anything to do with it. Like the blade stops flashing and they're just gone. But the chain pickerel is kind of the same way with me. If you drop that spinner bait or you drop that blade, then all of a sudden they kind of get wise and they're like, I don't know if this is something I want to eat.
Mhm.
But yeah, pike would be a good one to catch.
I forgot a very important one that I really haven't caught a whole lot of, so that's probably why it slipped my mind. But that would be the smallies.
Yeah.
We had the cold water and super clear, and um, the smallmouths. I have never caught one on a top water. I've really only caught a couple of them, probably like a handful, maybe, and they've all been pretty small. So that would be one I would love to check off the list, especially on top water.
Yeah, one of the guys from X22 Adventure sent me a picture. It was Nick, and he sent me a picture of him catching a smallie on the white frog. And I was just like, the white small walker. I was like, really? Where are you at? He was like, Colorado. I was like, what?
That's wow. That's awesome, though.
Yeah, I was
They
like, I'm
mark every day.
confused, but all right, cool. I usually don't have a spot where we target smallies, but I mean, I'd be down for it. But again, in Maryland, like you're either fishing for snakeheads, bass, rockfish, big catfish. That's pretty much the
Pretty
big
much.
four. So, all right, question two. Let's keep it moving here. Well, I mean, we talked about species. I guess we'll just move on to question three then. But so, when did the topwater frog fishing become more than just like I'll try it sometimes. I'll try throwing a frog here, but now like when did it become like a confidence bait for you that you're just going to go out there and say, you know what, this is the situation. I know which frog I'm throwing. Let's go.
Right. So I'm pretty new to really targeting bass, to be completely honest. I don't claim to be professional, even though I would like to be someday. But I'm fairly new to even throwing topwater, and I only caught one topwater fish ever before I even came and saw you at the expo in late April, right around that May period this year at the South Florida Expo. So after I came and met the team and saw you there, I literally went out the next morning because it was a 2-day event, right? The expo. Went out the next morning with this lure right here, still the original one. It's got a little bit of rust on it now and wear and tear because I've used it so many times.
You got
But
to
I went
wash
out
them down
there.
before you put them in the box. I tell this to everybody. They're like, oh man, I fished this thing for a year and it's just got a little bit of rust on the wire underneath. I'm like, yeah, you're supposed to wash down your lures before you put them back in. You know that, right? They're like, what? I was like, yeah,
It's
dude.
my fault. It's my fault for sure. I've upgraded my boxes even since then with waterproof seals and all that. So slowly but surely, I'm starting to try to level up my game. But
That's
this
just
is
one
a
thing that nobody does. I mean, nobody thinks about it, and I'm guilty of it
walking
too.
down.
Because we'll go in the kayak, and I've just got to. I like when I go fishing now. I don't bring one of every color. I don't bring all the stuff. I bring 5 frogs with me, and I put them in my damn pocket. And I've got other stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like I've got other stuff in the kayak, but I go out there and be like, all right, I got a blaze runner. I've got a popping frog, the juggernaut. I've got a walking frog, and I've got the double bladed frog, and I got the rat. Like I've got 5 lures in my pocket, and if none of those are working, then it ain't a top water day. I'm going home, and I'll just
Honestly,
throw them all on the floor of the kayak. And of course, the whole time water's coming up. But unless I go to rinse down the kayak, I never wash down any of my lures. But I have a little more
yeah,
access to inventory than most people do. But
this is
yeah,
true. So
yeah,
for
it's the
future
only
reference,
only
I'll
problem I
definitely.
haven't solved is like if you just leave it in a box for a year in the back of the truck, yeah, you might get a little rusty, but they're titanium hooks, so hopefully.
No. Oh no, I'm not worried about it. It's more or less just use, and if the amount of fish I've caught on this one lure, I mean it's worth every dollar, every penny, and every moment I spent researching. So after the expo, I mean I went and bought this lure, and within 14 hours I had probably 10 blow ups, and I
Yeah,
had no idea what I
he's
was
sending
even
me
doing.
pictures of fish on the 3rd day of the expo, and he was like, "Yeah, I caught this one." I was like,
Yeah,
"Hey," I'm like literally with the customer. I was like, "Here's a guy that bought one the other day. He just caught a fish," and they were like, "All right, yeah, give me 2 of them." All right, cool.
you know what I'm saying? So, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was using a medium light pole to catch that fish. Like I didn't even know with frog fishing that I needed backbone. That's how inexperienced I am to some of this. But I like sharing that with my channel and my viewers because I don't claim to be professional. I'm just like a normal person trying to figure this stuff out. And if I can go out there and do it within just a couple of months, calming those nerves down, just setting up your gear a little bit better, having the right line and all that, you know, that's my goal. But really I didn't gain any confidence until I caught that fish off of this because I'd only caught one fish previously and it was tension hooked. I didn't know what
I
I
hear
was
that
doing.
so many times from people. I hear it from people who are act professionals. I mean, I'm not going to name names here, but professionals. And they're like, man, you'll never catch anything on a frog. And I'm like, I have thrown a frog only for the last 3 years and I've caught hundreds, if not thousands of fish, dude. Like, I get it. Like, I have a frog company. You're not going to believe what I say. But I mean, you can just go on our page and look at all the people that are successful with frogs. And it's not that all the frogs are like the problem. Sometimes it comes down to the angler, the equipment. I mean, it's fishing. It is what it is. But to be like, oh, you'll never catch anything on top water. It's how long
No,
did you try? That's the thing. So I'm telling people, I'm like, how long did you try for, and what frog were you using? And they'll turn around and they'll say some, oh, I just used some cheap no name frog, blah blah blah. I'm like, well, that's probably what it's for. Like that's probably the problem. If are you using the technique the right way, or are you doing something wrong? Like you can't go out there with. I don't want to name any names or anything, but you can't go out there with a lure with a spaghetti, piece of spaghetti as a hook and expect to catch big fish. If you got, premium Chinesium wire hooks, they're not going to set the same way as a steel hook. You know what I mean? You're not going to have the same results. So I always
I mean,
encourage people. I'm like, try it, wait till you feel tension, then set the hook, see how it does for you. But it's an
it's
uphill battle.
definitely been a learning curve, even as of recently, like this August has been a character development month, is what I've decided to call it.
I saw one of your most recent posts was you lost like you had 3 breakoffs or something like that, and then the next post was your girlfriend catches her PB, and I'm like, oh, he's having it rough, dude.
Yeah, literally that was the same trip. Like we weren't fishing frogs because I needed a break for a couple days because I kept missing shots. They were short shot and they're not even wanting to eat at all. And it's like the same place where I've had 10 fish hit. They don't want nothing I can throw. And that's kind of a part of the journey, right? You can't always just have a topwater blow up. You want that, and that's what we're always coming back for,
But you
but
can't in Florida.
you can in Florida. Yeah.
I don't know how it works up there
I'm
in Massachusetts, but yeah, I get it. You can't just rely on one bait, but I do because I just need to have the content. You know what I mean? So I've just gotten really good at being like, I will just search all over the place until I get a bite. And if I didn't get a single bite, I didn't get a single blow up, it's not me. It's the fish that day. They're just not there.
I had 6 hours. I
Yeah.
had 6 hours searching, literally, and I was committed to, like, 2 frogs, and I think that was probably my mistake. I probably should have switched up a little bit more and tried up my cadence a little bit, switch the cadence, maybe. And sometimes when you don't get a bite for so long, you're almost in, like, a secondary state, and then when they hit all of a sudden, I know where you might jerk it, and that's been a thing that I've had to
Yeah.
work on as well because,
When you're
they
out there
can.
and you're frustrated and everything's going wrong, and then you do finally get a blow up, and you're just so dead set on being like, I'm hooking this fish, and you go to set and there's nothing there, it's because you just lost all patience for the day, and then you make yourself feel even worse. So I don't know,
Yep.
and it's different because like on the days where it's usually smaller fish, right? You'll get a lot of bites, but it's usually smaller fish. You don't get a bunch of like the big fish eating, and then you'll get the days where nothing's hitting, and then every once in a while you run into that giant fish, and you don't have the patience, and you're not waiting. It took me probably the better part of a year to just be like, you know what? I have to decide what kind of speed I'm going to fish with. Because if I'm throwing something like the rat or I'm throwing the blaze runner, it's a search bait. Like if they grab it, they're already running with it. It's a little bit different of a hook set and like a speed, like a when you see it in reaction time, than a frog that you throw out there and it sits in the middle of the lily pads and you just wait. 15 seconds go by, twitch, you drag it across the hole, and then all of a sudden you get the blow up. Then you got to wait even longer, reel down and set the tension. So it's like, you know what? If they're hitting moving baits, I'm just throwing moving baits. I'm gonna catch the smaller fish today. And if they're not hitting that, then I guess I got to do a little more finesse. And I have to like I will park in one spot and just be there for 15, 20 minutes coming to the lily pads until one of them decides that they want to blow up on it. So just gotta depends on the day. I don't
We
know
know they're
exactly
in
what the
there.
conditions are. Yeah, I know they're there. They live here all year round. I mean, they'll have
Yep.
resident shallow bass, but snakeheads too. They'll get like a little territory area, and you can usually tell where it's going to be at. They have some kind of little structure, a bush, vegetation, log, something like that, and different fish come in and out of those little ambush points because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for ambush points. So when the tide changes and one of them gets washed out, tide changes and one of them comes back in, then they're going to look for the same places to be at because that's where they want to be comfortable and they want to go attack things. So I just kind of usually go out there, play the tide right, because we're in a tidal system where I'm at. It's 2 feet of tidal difference, even way back in the creeks. So sometimes you go back there and there's no water, and then 4 hours later you got a foot of water. But guess what? All the fish have moved up in there and they're ready to stage up in their ambush points. So you can fish the same river every damn day and catch different fish. I mean, they'll never it's not like they will never run out, but you'll never run into the same fish in the same spot in the same week. Like maybe a month later, 2 months later, they got a reset memory, but you can keep hitting it over and over again. And that's why I think I have more success is because I just speed and target the areas where I know a fish is going to be at. And if there's nothing there that day, I'm like, all right, we've been there for 4 hours. Let me get creative. and see if there's anything else going on. But if there's not, then just like, yeah, well, it's going to thunderstorm in 20 minutes. Let's go home.
Sometimes right before that, that's usually when they want to start biting. You've been casting for however many hours. It could be 2 minutes, it could be 6 hours, and right when you get to leave,
Yeah.
that happens to me over
And
and
I
over again.
see I see so much, like, I call it opinion phrased as facts. There's so many opinions phrased as facts on the internet right now. Like I was watching somebody, and again, I'm not going to name names, but they were like, "This is why you should only fish for bass before a thunderstorm." And I'm like, "What, dude? After the thunderstorm is when you catch the giants. You have so much water runoff. You have more bait moving. It's an influx of fresh water. The fish are moving." I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude?" And they're like, "Yeah, statistically, you should." I'm like, "Statistics don't mean shit. Statistically, that means somebody took the time to write this shit. That doesn't mean anything, man. I want to know, when did you catch your PB and where was it? That's what I want to know."
Right? Understood. Understood. And that makes a lot of sense. The fish, they're opportunity feeders, right? So as soon as that rain comes in, like you said, that fresh water, it's going to oxygenate all the water. Everything's kind of moving around. It might be a little more murky, but with a blade on the back or you're fishing an edge, that's where you're going to draw that reaction strike. And that's, I think, what's changed it for me because I'm not the best at walking baits all the time. Like I
Well,
got
that
a
and
jank,
sometimes it's sound. Sometimes
it-
sound is the motivator, and
right?
it depends on different types of year. But yeah, I mean, when you're, or what's in the water, but when you have low visibility, then you're going to have to rely on vibration and sound. When you have high visibility, you're going to have to rely on the colors being correct, something more realistic. So there's little nuances to it. But when you hear those overgeneralizations, I'm just like, dude, it's fishing. Like anything could happen. Like
It's a little bit much.
the small fish eat at different times and different patterns than the big fish, right? The small fish, they run around and they're actively looking for something to eat all the time. They're burning calories all the time. They have to eat and eat and eat to keep going. Whereas the big fish, their muscle density changes and they become ambush predators. So they don't have the endurance to swim around all day. They'll sit and wait. And when something with enough calories for them comes by, that's when they explode, grab it, don't use a whole bunch of energy, and go back and find another ambush point. So different things to think about. So you can't just lump everything in to like, this is exactly what you have to do, because it's
No,
fishing. But
it's fishing, not catching.
yeah, sometimes. But sometimes you can't keep them off the line. Sometimes you go back to the same spot and you're like, damn, where the hell at? But
First time I came to Massachusetts, I went out in the kayak and I stayed in one spot for 2 hours and I caught 6 fish on this one right here. And that was my first time throwing this in New England. And I was like, oh, these fish are done.
yeah, they've never
Wait,
seen that before.
they've never seen this before ever. And since then, I have not caught that many fish in a single day.
Well, maybe you should stop moving around. Okay.
Yeah, well, what happened was I think August happened. That was that mid kind of July, maybe early, still kind of July, where in my mind I think it's July. It's going to be hot, but really it's August,
August
and
is dead heat.
especially here, it was still they were still biting those first couple days, that first weekend to it, but after that, it's kind of cut off, and I've had to reevaluate again. What have I been doing wrong? Why am I not getting the same? And it's obviously because it's too hot, but I'm just fishing too fast. I'm not giving it enough pauses. I'm not doing the things I need to do to get those reaction strikes with the same lure, maybe in the same space, but temperatures are different. There's less oxygen in the water, and I wish I had learned that earlier, right? I know that's one of the questions for later on, but that would have helped me on. And sometimes, you can't just get stuck on what's always worked in the past. You got to keep adapting with, the times and the conditions. And, the moon could be this way and the wind's blowing. I'm like,
And that's why I feel like beginners have so much luck, because beginners go out there and they don't know about conditions. They don't know about what the fish are supposed to be doing. They just throw whatever they want to throw because it looks cool. And guess
right.
what? Fish are simple. They're like, that looks cool. And then they'll grab it. Like, you'll be surprised. Like, you go out there and people that don't know anything and, never been fishing before. I've taken people that have never gone snakehead fishing. Maybe they've gone bass fishing, but they're just like, oh, what do we do? I'm just like, I don't know, throw it under every damn tree up there, throw it up to like that side of the bush, then the other side of the bush. And that's what they'll do. I mean, they don't have any other technique. So they'll just throw it into every single position where they can think that there might be a fish. And eventually, boom, they start catching fish after fish. And while I'm sitting there like, good, yeah, nice. I'm the glorified net man now, but that's cool. Like, I catch these things all the time. Do whatever you want to do, like keep it rolling.
Beginner's
But
luck. Beginner's
yep,
luck. It's a real thing, right?
I'm like, I would have never thrown there. Like, you're 20 yards off on the secondary, and I'm like, why'd you throw it out there? And they're just like, I don't know, man. I saw a shadow. I'm like, yeah, good, well, good enough. Saw a shadow. If that makes you happy, then throw out there. And you know what? The shadow was a fish. So
Hey, if it works, it works, right? I think intuition is a thing with fishing. I think feeling a little bit sometimes does go into it. You're not always going to be right, but the times that you are, it's real nice. So
Mm, yeah, and I mean, I've gone out there on days where everybody's on the water and there's too many people in one spot, and they're just like, "Oh, they're not biting. You're not going to catch anything. I've been here since 6 a.m." and I'm like, "It's 8:15. It's only 8:15. All right, well, good luck to you. Whatever." I make 2 casts. I haven't even left the boat ramp yet. I'm waiting for my buddy to come, put his kayak in or whatever, and I'm already catching fish, and everybody's sort of, what are you doing?" I'm like, just sitting here. I don't know. What have you been doing the whole time that you haven't caught fish? It's like, "Oh, I've been moving and casting on the edge of the lily pads." I'm like, "Yeah, they're not going to be on the edge of the lily pads. They're going to be way back in the thick stuff. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. They're waiting for stuff to come off the bank still. We're eight
it's
o'clock now. You know what I mean?" But that's why. Don't anybody can be out there and tell you, "Oh yeah, you're never going to catch any fish," or "I'm not catching any fish." Doesn't mean a damn thing. Don't get discouraged by that. If you go out there for 5 hours and you haven't caught any fish, though, change it up. Find something else to do. But
find something else to do.
yeah, maybe they're just not hitting spinner baits that day. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. I
All
think
right,
the.
we
I
got
think the.
two questions that we need to get to.
All right, let's
Trying to
do it.
keep us on track here. So,
Boys.
what's one fish that you've caught that you'll remember for the rest of your life?
So a lot of fish are memorable. I've had some memorable catches as of lately, but you know, to keep it on the frog topic, I literally went out, the next day after meeting Invasive and the team at the expo, and not only was getting hit after hit, but I caught my first snakehead on a topwater lure. Uh, it wasn't a big guy; it was a little baby. I remember coming to the expo the same day, a couple hours later. Look what I caught. Um, because I'd never done that before. It was cool to me, and it really just showed me that there's real power with these topwater lures, not just frogs, right? Because this is a different presentation. It has a spoon on the back. It has a different wobble to it. I've thrown just like normal green little booyah frogs before, and tried to walk it, but I'm not the best at walking necessarily because that takes a little bit of time to kind of dial in. So the ability to just to kind of go out there with basic gear that I had and catch a snakehead in a small pond, where they were hitting, that was a change for me because I had never done that before. So it's definitely a memorable fish. I've had a lot of big catches, but that one it definitely changed the game for me.
It's just something about topwater eats that changes everything, man. Like you fish your whole life subsurface, and you used to be like, "Oh, there's one." You reel it up, and it just comes right up to the surface. And
Right.
then when you turn that into, it's like fishing in 2 dimensions of just bringing the fish up. Now all of a sudden you got a third dimension that you got to deal with. It's in the air. It can throw it. It's coming at you. It's running away. Goes
Uh huh.
down. Changes the game.
It's not the same at all, and literally the next few days I went to that same little pond, which was just a retention pond for like a farm nursery area, and then I used the blaze runner and I caught like a 4.5 pounder, and that could have eaten the first one that I caught,
Hmm.
but and that was pretty much in the same area. So at that point, within that first week of just using the three lures that I'd bought, I'd caught in, I don't know, handfuls of fish, and it, I will never be the same, because like you said, I'd always fish that subsurface level, and seeing them come up and eat like that, it's like nothing else.
Which is actually going to bring us into the next segment. So the next segment is called Frog Talk. Go figure. On the Feeling Froggy podcast, we might have to make some amendments to this, but in Frog Talk, we're going to try and give the audience a deep dive into one technical kind of aspect of frog fishing. So, what is your favorite technical technique in frog fishing? And we'll dissect it, and we'll try and, because we got different opinions on it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty well versed in all of the lures, but sometimes people fish things differently than how I would fish them. And that way you get basically two opinions and two different kind of ideas to try when you go out there on the water,
Absolutely.
and maybe they can give you more fish. So, what's your favorite technique when it comes to topwater frog fishing?
I like using a little bit smaller of a profile. I like throwing it maybe just into the cover or just into the pads, letting it sit there for however long you need, depending on your conditions and what you think is right. Maybe 15 seconds, maybe 30. And then I like to burn it a little bit. I've had a lot of luck where it's coming right off the pads, and I see something. Maybe it was kind of like a little, a little lagoon or a little cutout here in the pads, and I drag it across this way, and my kayak's back there, and I just see a fish come out of nowhere, come out from a different angle of the pads, and they're looking at it. And as soon as I usually see that, I'll stop. I'll stop unless it just, eats it immediately, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they just want to see what's going on because they heard a disturbance or they saw a little moving bait going across, and it came from the pads, and then I'll usually twitch it, twitch or something like that, or give it a little, and usually they'll eat it every time. I've had a lot of luck on this particular one right here, so I've also had luck on the Cobra and on the Chuggernaut using different ones, but I think the most aggressive strikes that I think I've seen, especially personally, have been whenever I'm dragging it or throwing it right into the pads, giving it a pause, and then kind of burning a little bit to see if I can get a reaction from somewhere.
So this is what we call a search bait. So it's a search technique. And whereas the opposite end is like this, you sit, you twitch your frog, and you move it a little. So what you're doing is you're kind of combining the search bait technique with a little bit of finesse, which is interesting because that's totally different than how I work the blaze runner. I'll work the blaze runner and throw it as far as I can and throw it into the structure. Like you can't see it anymore. Throw it under the sticks, throw it into the bulrushes, whatever. And then pull it either down the bank line if you're working it parallel, or you pull it all the way across, right? And then usually I run it just fast enough to get the blade to go. I want it to look like something that's just like a tadpole swimming across, or like a little mouse is just making a little beeline, nice and
Hmm.
slow, nice and open, nothing's not worried about anything, because that's when I usually get the bites, is when you get it into that secondary part of the cover. So you'll throw it way deep in there where there's really shallow water. It hits. I wait for the ripple to go away, and then I start moving it, and it's going real slow, and it's just kind of bouncing off cover all left and right, coming out usually right before it gets to the edge is when it gets blown up on, or maybe even they follow it past the edge a little bit. I never stop moving that thing because I'm just already looking for the next cast. I'm waiting for, if this one gets hit, great, and I'm ready to throw it to the next spot in the bank or whatever there is, kind of structure, and I just throw it in there. That's the only time I stop it and reel it in slow and steady. But yeah, I guess reeling it at a retrieve speed that gets a little more splash behind it and a little more wobble to it makes it look like there's something is more in duress, which can often trigger the bite response. So it's funny that you're like, oh, let me make it look like it's speeding off and then stop and wait for them to come see if they want it, which is
Well, it's because they're coming and they're looking at it.
mhm.
So I feel like that's like a rodent or a frog, and they're paused for a second, like they do that little frozen motion. And I'm gonna switch it up and do different techniques as time goes on, but I caught 6 fish that day on that exact same setup, and it
Yeah,
may
if it's
just be
working,
that
don't
day.
change it. That's number one. If
You
it's
know,
working, don't change it. And sometimes they want different retrieves on different days. So some days
this is
they're
true,
only hitting off the edge line, and some
right?
days you'll throw it way back into the sticks, and they
Ooh.
won't hit it immediately until you move it just a little bit, and then they come and blow up on it. But you got to find out what's working for you. So that's the beauty of a search bait, is you can throw it into pretty much any structure, especially something that small. And that's why we kind of had gone with that one, because the swamp walker was our original frog, and that was our walking frog, which is great for throwing it into pockets, leaving it right on the edge line. You can run that where it kind of bounces up and down a little bit in a straight line. You can run it where it twitches, but it's not a very fast retrieve frog. It's really good for finesse, but it is not good for covering a lot of water. So what you do is you'll in the interest of speed, you'll be reeling it up before it gets to the boat. Like you come out of the edge lines and like it's open water, and most people are like, all right, forget it. We'll just go to the next spot. But with the blaze runner, we wanted that one because they're, especially for snakeheads, they are a lot more interested in stuff that's moving a little bit faster, and you can cover a lot more. So when you go out there and you don't know exactly where the fish are sitting at that day, I always tell people, go to your spot that you think there's going to be fish, or wherever you want to fish at. Stay outside the lily pads, cast directly at the bank, perpendicular. Reel it in, see if there's anything there. then cast to your right, then cast to your left, and work the edge line parallel. Move into the lily pads a little bit, do the same thing on the inside, and then, find some spots around that have, some kind of structure difference. It could be a divot, could be an overturned tree, could be a bush, something like an ambush point, and then you just start combing those ambush points and seeing where they're at. And if there's nothing there after about 15 minutes of casting in a 180, go all the way that way, all the way the other way, start pulling it in, because sometimes they'll start gravitating towards the commotion. But if
Right.
there's nothing there after 15 minutes, move down 50 yards and try it again. And you're looking to see, okay, where are the fish sitting? Where can I establish a pattern? And sometimes they're only sitting in one little type of cover where it could be a bunch of reeds that have washed up, and there's like a big grass mat and reeds and all kinds of junk, and they're sitting under there and they don't want to be out in the open. So you will never find that if you're like, oh, I'm dead set on being in the lily pads today and working a frog. They're not in there. They're looking for overhanging structures, stuff like that. So when you get out there, I always tell people do the fan cast kind of technique, move in and cover a lot. That's why I usually run with like the splash rat, because it's a little bit slower, it's a little bit bigger, but it's the same idea. If it's really dense stuff, or I want to cover a lot fast during like the pre-spawn, or I'm just looking for numbers of fish, then I'll throw the blaze runner, because the smaller fish will hit the smaller profile as well. But don't let that deter you. I've caught my biggest fish on the blaze runner, and it was a 12-pound snakehead on, I think it was yellow. I can't remember. I think it was a yellow with the white bottom that we used to make. But yeah, that was the biggest fish came by, and he ate that blaze runner coming right through when the lily pad fingerling lily pads come up, and they're like 4 inches of leaf over top of the water. Well, there's
Yep.
like a foot of silt under there that they sit in. So when you cast and cast and cast all day, you finally run it past the big one's face. They'll eat that one. They're not that picky. There's not that much big of a difference between like a 2 inch and 2 1/4 inch, bait, but it does make a little bit of difference for the ones that want to chase and follow, because the smaller fish chase and follow while the big ones will sit there.
This is true.
So I don't know. You use it. What are your other little techniques that you're using there for the? Are you just
So
combing lily pads mostly? Just throwing it right into the edge and bringing it
there's
back?
a there's a lot more grass and lilies that I ever realized were up here in this area. Um, Massachusetts is very heavily wooded, and they've done a interesting job on like, zoning and sanctioning over the years, where a lot of these places and a lot of these little town ponds and areas and even reservoirs, I mean, there's a lot of rules and stuff against that. So they're not really to allowed to modify much or take out much unless it's a super invasive weed or something like that. Um, there's a lot of pads in certain areas, and I've had a lot of luck in 2 foot of water or less. I've caught fish in 6 inches of water before, and I was like a year or two ago, that would have been mind boggling. I wouldn't even gone anywhere near the pads. But just since I've been using these baits, especially the searching baits, where you can just kind of burn them like you said, and do your fanning motion to figure out where they are. I've had a lot of luck in that, and if I'm not doing that, I like to throw it at the edge. I mean, the other day I threw on the Chuggernaut for literally the first time because it's been sitting in the package. I've been looking at it, and I guess it's probably been sitting in the package just because I'm not familiar with it. I haven't really used this style frog a whole lot. Maybe I'm scared of it, right? Just because I haven't used it. I tied it on, and literally the entire video from start to tie on to releasing the fish was 3 minutes and like 50 seconds. And that's a record. That's a record for me. I threw it right at the edge of the pads and just pop, pop, and there was a fish right there, right at the right time. I mean, obviously it was sunset. Obviously, I've had thousands of casts with these lures at this point and hundreds of misses. But that one paid off. So it just depends. I mean, I had one that was on this one the other day, and I was just burning across the pads, just like you're saying. I was not stopping, and it came out of nowhere and just like an orca, boom. And I missed that fish. You know why? Because I cleaned my reel that day, and I didn't lock my drag all the way down. So I've had a lot of learning,
There you
learning
go.
to do
Pro tip:
with.
always check your drag before you go out fishing. As
I
soon as you
even
get
put
in
it
the boat, check
down.
your drag. You pick it up, check your drag.
Man, I was, so I've had multiple fish. I just dropped this guy in. I think this one, the invasive lure, and I don't have the black one right now, which is my favorite because it's in the one that got away's mouth.
He got
Maybe
eaten.
still. Yeah, it got eaten. Always use the right gear, but I sent it just like you were saying. I was sitting talking on the phone. I was like, might as well make a couple casts while I'm here. Um, I had to do the business. I did, I know people don't want to talk phone and business while you're fishing. I get it, but I had to handle that at the time. So I'm like, fine, I'll just put it on speaker and I'll just sit here. Maybe I'll get one in my mind. I'm like, that'll be good content, right? I sent it 100 foot away or so, because with this rod, you can really send these guys and with braided line, and something just came out of nowhere. It was sitting right there and just swallowed it whole. And that pulled me in my kayak about 100 feet into the pads, and not having the right gear again will teach you a big lesson. So everyone learned from me, and use a heavy stick and the heaviest braid line that you possibly can. I wasn't really targeting largemouth that day, but I just happened to end up in some pads. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna throw one or two and see what happens, and then that ended up happening to me, and that is the biggest bite and fight that I've had in the last few months, and I missed it just because
When you weren't fishing for them, that's what happens.
it just happens like that. So
Which brings
I've
me
had luck.
to a slight segue. Not really like a product plug or anything here, but we are starting to offer more things on our website. Not just invasive lures, frogs, and stuff like that. And we are having a section of like essentials that you might need. It's going to be things like fish grips. It's going to be things like your line cutters. We have a partnership with Finn's Braid. So if you're on the website and there's some extra stuff that you need, you can now get it all in one place. So like do whatever you want with that information. I'm not telling you go there and spend all your money. I don't care. But if you're right there already, just know that we are offering some other stuff because we wanted to be a little bit more value for the customer. When you come in, these are products that we know work, right? I'm not just buying premium Chinesium braided fishing line. Like Fins is made in the USA. Line Cutters is a USA company and they're well known and stuff like that. But I will be completely honest with you. Invasive Lures gets a very small kickback from that, but I'm not worried about it. I want you guys to have the stuff that you need to catch the fish, because if you're successful catching the fish, then you're going to be happy. You're going to be like, man, these lures are great. I caught more fish. That's the goal. I just want to be able to offer you guys more value. That's one of the things that we're trying to do throughout the rest of this year. That's why we're doing, the podcast to give you guys more information. We got the blog series over on the internet. Or the website. Frog fishing basics. You can read all of this stuff. And I curate it. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I give the chat GPT all the words that it needs to know. And then when it spits me out AI garbage, I go, yeah, let me fix this real quick and give you guys actual information. So do with that what you will. But yeah, there's going to be 4 blog series there. One is basics, one is advanced techniques, which we're working on. And then we got the podcast, which covers a lot of these advanced techniques too. They're just a little less structured than lesson 1, lesson 2. That way, when you guys go to the website, you're not just like, oh, gotta buy something. That's the only reason to be here. We want you guys to be able to post your Instagram, post your catches. We have the big fish bounty. We have the monthly giveaway this month. Secretly, I'm not releasing this info, but if you are a customer on the website this month, you automatically get entered in to win a gift package, and Finn's Braid has sent us some stuff for that gift package. So since we were talking about braided line, that's what I'm bringing it up. So you guys get a chance to get some free stuff that is gear that I actually use. I wouldn't tell you guys to go use junk because it doesn't behoove me at all to tell you guys to go use junk for $1 if it means you guys are going to lose fish. I want you guys to catch fish. That way you're happy and you come back when your lure finally gets lost in a tree, then you can buy another frog. That's the goal. So
Absolutely.
Anyway, back to fishing techniques. But yeah, so you have a lot of wooded timber and stuff like that, and nobody can really mess with the area. But what are you throwing in the laydowns? Are you throwing the blaze runner and the splash right across the sticks?
I am. I think as of lately I've had a little bit more trouble finding the laydowns, just because been doing a lot of bank fishing. I recently just got on the kayak, so I've been able to venture out in different areas. In the laydowns, I like to throw the popper, and I like to throw something with the willow blade on the back. So I've had some luck with at least hits. I haven't landed a lot of fish with it, but I've definitely had interest. So there's not like a lot of laydowns, it seems, in certain areas. And if it is, it's like you got to cast this way around the corner, and to get exactly where it is for certain little ponds. But for the areas that I have been on the kayak, there's a lot of pads. So I've been trying to just utilize the edges deep into the pads. If there is a big tree or laydown, obviously we'll cast by it. And I had a bunch of hits the other day, but nothing has been committing really the last few weeks. So maybe it's my fault. Maybe it's August. Maybe it's kind of both. Maybe I need to adjust my retrieve and my cadence a little bit to really get them to fully commit. But I like to throw something that's gonna have the willow blade, I believe. Yeah, or the willow blade, or that chop on the front where it's really gonna make some noise.
If it were me, and this is just a
Let me know.
suggestion, if you want to still stick with something that's got blades on it, throw the chop frog because it dips back in the water a little bit and those blades will shine. You can still run it in a straight line and the blades clink, but because you're on laydowns and hard structure, it's still a search bait. You just get, whereas you were doing before, you're like, I'm going to cast it, I'm going to retrieve it, and then I'm going to do the finesse where I just stop on the edge line and stuff like that. Now you're doing it backwards. So what you want to do is if you're targeting the laydowns, you're targeting fallen trees, overhangs, and stuff like that. This is what we do for snakeheads and bass here and like the rivers and stuff. We will canals. We'll throw the chop frog under the trees as far as possible and then just dead stop it. And then when it's sitting there dead stop, burn it. Like burn it from under the tree. Like all of a sudden it's just like got a wild,
Taking
hair,
off.
and it's just like, I'm out of here, and I'll just burn it and get the clinking because that noise that it makes is going to, one, all the fish that didn't see it land in there are going to be like, what the hell is that? Right. It's got clinking blades. It runs across the top, gurgling water and all that. And then run it out to where the overhang is because there's gaps in the sticks and everything. So a lot of the fish are sitting there underneath waiting for stuff to come by. So if you throw it way back and they're not sitting right there way in the back on the very shallow area, which is where, snakeheads like to sit there, but bass will sit some there if there's like a hole or something for them to be in, and you'll get lucky. But if not, they're a little bit deeper. They're in that 3 to 6 foot range where the tree and all the overhang is because that's where all the little bait fish sit and that's where everything comes by. But now you made a bunch of noise and you're bringing that thing all the way across and then stop it before it gets to the middle and then make it look like it's like lost. It's like, which way do I go?
Hmm.
Then they come up for it. You got to give them some time to come find it because they're not right there at the surface. They got to come up from 3 or 4 feet. And especially if it's super hot, they don't really want to get above that thermocline anyway. They'll sit right above the thermocline, right in like a little bit cooler water, not way down deep, but they'll just be kind of floating around in the sticks and they'll be hugging right up against it. So when they hear something behind them, that's when they start looking around and moving for it. But they're real lethargic when it comes to hunting bait. Until they get committed to it, they won't take off running after it. But that's my suggestion for the technique. That way you still have a search bait. You're just doing it backwards.
Understood. Thank you for the tip.
So see if that one works for you. And then listeners, see if that one works for you too. I'd recommend the chop frog because it's a little bit heavier. It sits back in the water, at an angle. And then when you run it, it makes all that noise. So you can actually, if there's like an overhanging limb, if you hit that limb, don't just rip it out of there. Just let it sit for a second and bob up and down and see if that attracts a fish. If not, reel it. This is a technique. I'm going to make a whole video on this technique right here because I see so many people that are like, oh, I just lose my frogs to trees and blah, 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 blah. It's because you're yanking it out of there. Don't yank it out. Be
You gotta
real
trust.
slow. And I use my reel. I don't use the rod very much to pull stuff out. Pay attention, use your, line of sight and say, okay, there's a line going up over the branch. How many branches are in the way? Time the swing and everything. So as you get it going, you crank it over a little bit, and it goes whoop, and it swings over that branch. You can pull it real slow up to the branch, and as long as those hooks that are on the top don't catch anything, the frog's going to bounce off of pretty much every structure. But as soon as you try and rip it, the frog bodies are soft. They're going to roll over and they're going to collapse. And that's when you're going to catch, and you're going to have to go get your kayak up there and figure out how to get it out of the tree or the overhanging limb. And you blown up the spot. But a lot of times you'll throw it way deep in the sticks. And yeah, you're on top of 3 or 4 sticks, but you're in the right spot. So let it
Hmm.
bob up and down, just work it a little bit and then slowly reel it up and then wait and then pull it over that branch, let it drop. See if they blow up on it. Wait, slowly pull it up, repeat the process. And then when you're clear of the trees, now you don't have any problems. You can just continue working your tree however you want to. So that's a couple of tips there that will help you. One, maybe I shouldn't have told you that, because now you're going to save all your damn frogs and nobody's going to buy them off the website. But whatever. You guys go catch more fish. You'll be happy, and you'll save your frog lures. And the frog leash is another thing. So especially if you're fishing really sharp structure like coral rock, concrete, petrified wood, that is going to keep you from rubbing off the braid. Now, braid is good. It's a lot better than fishing with mono that stretches and it gets a nick in it and then it splits. But it's still braided line. It doesn't matter what braided line you're using. If you're throwing it over concrete all damn day, eventually you're going to stick a fish and you've worn out that braid. Whereas the frog leash, you're not going to have that issue. So consider that one. I know people that are like, man, I'm pulling the trees off the bank with the frog leash wrapped around it. I'm like, yeah, maybe if you just pulled it a little slower, then you wouldn't have that issue. They're like, no, I'm ripping them out. Okay. Okay, do whatever you want to do.
It's capable, that's for sure. It is capable, but I know exactly what you're talking about, and I would get excited. I'm like, oh no, my in a tree, and you just yank it, and you, like you said, you're gonna collapse its body just like this, and it's gonna send it straight into the branch, and you're wasting all that line, and you might even, some people break their rods over this stuff, and it's
Oh, yeah, I've done it. I've done it with had a brand new I won't say the name of it, but it was a brand new custom rod. It was like a $350 rod. It's supposed to be unbreakable, this kind of stuff. And I'm over the lily pad root, like the big thick lily pad root. The snakehead blows up on it. I go reel down and I set the hook hard because it's a giant. That rod broke in 3 places because it got stuck on this much of the lily pad root under the 50-pound braid. The braid didn't break. The rod exploded. So now I'm over here. Everybody on the water heard new curse words that day.
yeah. Yeah, new language came out on that one. I'm sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
there was a language patch update, and I did not catch that fish, and that's why I was even more mad, because I was like, if I break the rod, cool, whatever. I catch my PB fish, even better. But if I break a rod and lose the fish,
That's a rough day. Where it's quiet on the way home.
y'all better
No
not say a damn thing to me the rest of the day.
not a single thing.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and label that under the field notes section. We're supposed to be doing a section called field notes where we give you like a little bit of a technical tip, a little technique. It goes frog talk was the big overview, and we were talking about search baits today. And then the tips, we give you a few. So I feel like you guys get a lot of those things. But the question for field notes is, what's one thing you know now that you wish you had learned years ago? And I think that being able to work your frog back out of a tree and still keep the presentation there, that's got to be something that for years, I mean, people won't ever think of it. I see pros that are just like, I'll rip it out of the tree, cut it off, put another one on there. I'm like, what are you doing, man? You could have caught a fish there. So that's what I would go with, is practice. Next time you get into a tree, don't just try and rip it out. Try and really slowly work it. Play the pendulum game, because it's all connected on a line. So if you can work that line back and forth a little bit, you get to flip over. Now, palmetto bushes, palm trees, stuff like that, good luck to you. It's a little bit different. Thorn bushes, not that easy either, but most hardwood, you'll be able to just flip it over. A lot of lily pad stalks and stuff like that, if you just let it float back up and give you a little slack, you'll be able to pull it off of there. That's part of the frog fishing. You know what I mean? You're not always going to get the perfect cast and get your line to lay down right, especially in 40-mile-an-hour winds while you're out there in a kayak and everything's moving. But
Exactly.
you'll get used to it. You'll figure it out. You'll figure out how to put your frog in a pocket that's 1.5 feet wide, 40 yards away, and land it right there perfectly. Eventually.
Good time.
All right, so let's wrap it up here. We got the last cast section, which is appropriate because your name is Cast1More. But last cast section, we've got 3 questions for you. You ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right. What is a technique you're still trying to learn?
Technique I'm still trying to learn. Well, in my notes app last night when I was looking over these questions, I said honestly everything, which I know is very broad because we're talking about one, but just understanding that slowing down sometimes is fast. I think when I first started fishing, even when I was a young child, I would just, as soon as you see a fish nibble or anything, you just want to start reeling, and even as a young adult, I'm still struggling with that sometimes. So, really being able to calm those nerves. Like I see if I'm as the last couple of weeks really is starting to change for me. I'm seeing a fish blow up on something, and I'm not just reeling down or just really trying to set it immediately. I'm giving the fish time to eat. I just posted a video, I think a couple days ago. You saw it. I was using the chop frog in the pads, and there was a fish that was coming for it. And before I see him eat, I just start trying to reel. I really want that fish just because I'm inexperienced with the technique and how everything really works with this style of fishing. But this fish hit the lily pads 3 or 4 times, and I even watched this fish come up from underneath the lily pad and pop it literally
Flip
completely
it up
up,
in the air. Yeah.
rip it up in the air. And so I would have never been able to see that and see that fish do that in real time if I was just reeling in constantly, just trying to, just getting too excited. So really, honestly, it's a technique, but it's calming your nerves down, letting the fish actually chase the bait and fully commit to it, not just, splash around it and all that. And that's what's different with subsurface fishing if you've only done that and you're moving over to topwater fishing. It's a different game. So calming the nerves is probably the biggest technique that I have a problem with and I've tried to learn on, so I can actually land more fish.
Oh yeah, it's different with topwater because you can't see the fish on subsurface. You don't know how many fish are actually down there looking at your bait. You know what I mean? Unless you have, I mean, at this point, the live scope can't tell you exactly what the fish is looking at, but
I don't have
it's
it.
getting close. Yeah, like you don't get the same anticipation. Like if you see the bass just swiped behind your lure, obviously you're like, oh shit, something's going on here, But you don't see that subsurface. You don't know how many of them are sitting there looking at a wacky rig, just like watching it bounce around. So there's no anticipation. You're feeling the bite first. Whereas topwater don't work that way. All right. What's a piece of advice you would give to new anglers?
Piece of advice. See, I got a couple things here. Piece of advice. You don't have to have the most expensive equipment, but I would say at least have some strong equipment. I have a couple of ugly stick poles that are not the most expensive, and I have pulled the biggest fish out with them. They're heavier rods. A lot of people in certain categories of fishing will, say they're bad or they don't like them or whatever. And I'm not necessarily talking about brands here. I'm just saying you don't always necessarily need the most expensive gear to catch fish. It just needs to be halfway dependable and you know how to use it. If you're a person who knows how to use a $20 fishing rod versus a person that has no idea how to use a $200 rod, I guarantee you with your $20 rod using the right techniques and actually doing it correctly, you're going to you're gonna spend a lot of time catching fish versus learning. And I think a lot nowadays with social media, especially with the kids, the young kids coming up, they see everyone and they see the social media influencer promoting this or promoting that. Yes, I'm trying to promote some of these, and because they work, I'm getting a 10% kickback on everyone that I sell. Yes, it's going to promote the channel. It's all going back in for later on. But you don't need a $200 reel and a $200 rod and this crazy, crazy whatever just to go catch a fish. I would say you need halfway dependable, and learn from there. So you don't. I would say yeah, halfway dependable, and then at least halfway dependable, and then learn and take it from there.
That's a good point. My recommendation for new anglers is when they're like, "What kind of rod and reel do I need to get?" I'm like, "You get one for the specific technique that you like to fish. If you fish a worm, get a setup that's good for fishing a worm. If you like fishing a frog, get a frog setup. But get the ones with the warranty. All right, and I'm not trying to give a free plug to Bass Pro Shops or anything, but
That is true.
a lot of the Bass Pro Shop stuff has a 10-year warranty. So if you're just getting into fishing and you want to make your money last, go get yourself the Johnny Morris Carbon Light or whatever. And it's $100 now, whatever. But you get free refills on the thing. Take it back to the shop and say, I broke this. And they go, okay, go get another one, sweetheart. And I say, okay, yes, Miss Linda, I'll be back. That's it. That's the biggest piece of advice. Is that the best rod on the market? No, but it's one of the best rods for your wallet. So you decide what's important to you. If you have a disposable income and you want to get real into it, that's up to you. And obviously I have recommendations for that. But if you're just like, I want to save some money, I want you to save money so you guys can buy more frogs, right? That's my motivation. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, and I'm not all about the money. I want you guys to be able to go catch fish. That's the goal. So yeah, good. Two things to know is probably you don't need super expensive things to go fishing, and obviously you. I'm not in the market of trying to jack up the prices on people. And people can say, "Oh, you had $12 frog is too expensive." I hear that all the time, but I also see people that are like, "Dude, I'd pay 20 for this thing. I caught hundreds of fish on it." So I'm trying to just be fair, a fair price. That's what I've always said. All right, last question. Last one. Let me get out of big head mode real quick. Zoom us out. You're getting one last cast. You're out there on the water. Let's say you're in where you're at now, Massachusetts, right?
Right.
Where are you going to cast your last cast? And which frog are you going to use to work that last ditch effort to catch a fish?
I'm gonna have to go with the one that's gotten away from me. It's been living rent free in my dreams ever since it came off, and that was me sending the splash rod as far as I possibly could in the pads, and either they eat it on command or you're burning it and they're coming for it. Just have the right gear set up and don't be like me, so you can actually have it
Oh, don't
as a
fish
real.
that 15-pound mono or whatever.
It was 15-pound braided line
Oh,
on a
yeah.
spinning reel. But yeah, let's not get into it. But yeah, I would say the splash rat because I've had the biggest, at least, bite. I've had more consistent on maybe other ones, sure. But I'm talking about the one that really has gone and shown me, I'm going to eat this. It's definitely going to be in that orca splash rat.
So you're in it to win it. You're not in it to be like, oh, I just want to catch a fish before we leave. You're like, if I'm going to catch the last fish, I want it to be the mondo,
The
the
biggest one.
mega
Yeah,
fish.
yeah. I want to give myself the biggest possible chance. And as of lately, the splash shot has shown me that it's capable of those big
It has
fish. I
been
know
hot this
all of the
month.
big
I
ones.
don't know what it is about August, but all this month, I mean, usually probably for the last 6 weeks, the splash rate has just been performing. I don't know if it's because the shatter's dying off in the heat and they got the flash, like the silver and the flash and stuff like that, or if they're just looking for bigger baits, or if this is the time of month. Because I do see, like, when we go fishing at Nocatee, you walk around and there's little field mice and stuff right there by the edge. You'll step in a damn field mice tunnel and almost break your ankle off. But yeah, they go running out of there. Then at
Hmm.
night, like, you throw that in the evening, a white rat, they blow up on it like nothing else. So
That's right.
that's a good one. All right, well, we are officially wrapping up the end of this first podcast. Hopefully, it goes swimmingly in the editing. Wish me luck, boys. But we're going to get this out. I don't know what the stream schedule is going to be, but I'm aiming for maybe Fridays, maybe Saturdays. I don't know. We'll pick a day and we'll try and get a few of these episodes out of there. So if you like this, hit the follow buttons on social media. You can see it down here. We are Invasive Lures on YouTube, Instagram, obviously Facebook. We have our website, invasivelures.com, where you can see all of our blog articles talking about technique specifics, introduction to frog fishing, and obviously our products, stuff like that. You can ask us questions. You can even submit your fishing pictures to get in on the Big Fish Bounty and our monthly contributor giveaway. And yeah, once again, if you make a purchase on the website this month, you automatically get entered in to win a special Frogist gift box. And then you can also follow Cast1More over on his social medias, and he has TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and you have anything else? You on the X, the
Yeah,
Twitter?
I'm on Threads, but it's all kind
Yeah,
of
I don't use
connected
that, but
together.
yeah.
Find me on one of them. There's a link there to all of the profiles. So really appreciate the feedback and
And
the
for
support.
the listeners instead of the viewers, it is CAST, the number one, and then MORE. So type that in, Cast1More. And as a secret extra special bonus, anytime on the website, you guys can use the code CAST and save 10% at invasivelures.com. Because again, we don't have any sponsors here, and we're not asking for you guys to, subscribe or Patreon or any of that stuff. Just head to the website, check it out, and if it looks like something that you want to buy, send us an order and I'll fill it out and I'll send it to you expediently. So, anyway, we're out of here. You guys have a good one, and we'll see you on the next episode.